This is Larry Jordan, the host of the Digital Production Buzz. The following interview is an excerpt from a recent program. To hear the entire program, visit digitalproductionbuzz.com. Tom Inglesby has been a writer and editor since 1979 and the editor of Markee 2.0 magazine since 2014. This bi-monthly digital publication focuses on film and video production, and Tom has the responsibility of choosing article topics, writing or commissioning articles, and photography for each issue. Hello, Tom. Welcome.
Good afternoon.
It is wonderful to have you with us. A little loud here in the studio, but definitely good to have you with us.
That was the guy in the booth problem.
Anyway, Tom, tell us about what Markee 2.0 magazine is.
Well, Markee is a 30-year-old publication that was started basically as a regional film and video production magazine for the Southeast and has grown to national prominence. Well, we like to think prominence anyway. It has grown to a national audience, and it has basically been, it's been a print magazine all its life, and now it's gone to digital. So we are trying to catch up with the rest of the film industry by being all digital these days.
Well, you went through a change in life around 2013, 2014. New owners took over, and did they redirect the magazine, or what happened at that point?
No, we went from Markee to Markee 2.0 because we added the digital aspect of it, website and e-blast newsletters, all those kinds of good things. We didn't change the direction of the magazine so much as we just changed the way we presented it. And we looked at possibly having more content focused on the digital revolution in filming. And filming, of course, is probably a misnomer these days, but production of movies, whether they're on television, TV shows, or whether they're feature films.
Tom, everything has changed from print to digital. How much has that, hurt you, for lack of a better word? I mean, do you miss holding the magazine in your hand?
Yeah, tactical stimulation, yes. You like to have something that you can pick up and say, this is what I do, and look at everybody. Now you don't have to do that with an iPad. You can point to it and say, hey, I did this, and people say, oh, yeah, sure, everybody does it online these days, so we don't think of that as being a big deal. When you go to a trade show, for instance, to NAB, you want to have something to distribute. You want to have a print magazine that you can leave on somebody's desk. There's all kinds of value in having paper, but digital has the way things are going.
Yeah. Unfortunately, brings a tear to my eye.
Tom, you've been involved with writing and editing for a long time. What got you involved with Markee?
Well, I have a background in film going way back into the 60s, analog film. Remember those things?
Sure.
Sprocketed film.
Mm-hmm.
And I was doing educational and industrial films back in the 60s and 70s. And I was the sound guy for Encyclopedia Britannica Films and did recordings as well as films for them. So I had a little background, and when the editor of the magazine was looking for somebody to be a writer, I said, sure, I'll do it. And he said, okay, you can do it. So after about 3 months, the publisher said, look, the editor has got so many other things in the fire, why don't you take over? So I did, and that's how it happened. Right place, right time.
That is very cool. Recently, you had a chance...
You know how common that story is?
Oh, yeah. Very common. Just step in. I'm busy.
You just step in, take it over. Here you go. You got a new life.
I'm tired. Move on.
Yeah. Going back to my earlier days, in '79, I got into print magazines because I was a film producer at a defense contractor, and they said, gee, we need to get a magazine out for the military repair people on these jet engines. And I said, oh, I can do that. The next thing I knew, I was an editor. Couldn't spell editor without an O or a Z.
Tom, recently you attended the Creative Storage Conference, and Mike and I were chatting about that before the show started. Describe what that conference is.
Well, the Creative Storage Conference is, first of all, creative storage is sort of a a thing you could drive a truck around and not be able to be sure what you're doing. But it revolves around storage for media as opposed to storage for files and the databases of all those people that don't have their information stolen. We have a great need in the film and video industry for storing all that digital data. And so this conference was basically formed to do a review for technology people, mostly, of how to do a better job in storage.
What were some of the highlights that you learned at the conference?
Well, we've been covering the storage beat for about 4 years in the magazine. We look at using things like the cloud, and I use air quotes on that one, for workflow and storage. We've looked at local storage, hard drives, and so forth, on-camera storage, all of that. So it was a pretty good thing to go to this conference and see what everybody else is looking at. And one of the things we found out was that, we were lucky to have on our panel, I was a moderator of a panel, we were lucky enough to have 3 very creative independent filmmakers, great credentials. Not only they were active producers and cameramen, operators, writers, everything they did on this thing. And they were very avid about their needs in storage. And they had people in the audience from both vendor community and from the IT community, if you will, in the media business, listening very quietly. They wanted to hear what the people in the field really needed. For instance, the digital revolution in filmmaking has created a number of storage problems that, the big guys don't pay much attention to. The IBMs of the world aren't interested in what the little guy on the field wants to do. So how do you handle the dailies, for instance? What do you do about file transfers and workflow and all the things that are required in the new digital age for filmmaking? What they talked about and what we found out about was there is a tremendous need for storage and active storage and fast storage and storage that can be accessed easily, indexed so you can find things when you need it. All that comes together with the need for having those dailies on the field, later on post-production, passing material back and forth. We just looked at, from the analog era, we looked at storage as being throw the film in a can and hope it's going to be there when you need it. Nowadays, it's a lot more difficult, a lot more expensive.
One of the things that I was struck by, because I attended that conference and actually chaired a panel in the morning, is there's a big difference between storage that's needed for production and post, where high speed, high capacity is critical, versus the storage that's needed for distribution and archiving, where it's an entirely different environment. And where Mike and I work is in production and post, where we're always looking for the largest storage capacity and the fastest speed. But that is not really the bulk of the market, as far as I can tell, is it?
Well, the camera operator has the little SSD, the solid-state drive in the camera. They're worried about whether they have enough memory to load up a scene. Then they worry about what they're going to do with it afterwards. These are the things that the big guys don't pay too much attention to. And it gets into a cost factor, too. Besides using speed and storage capacity, you have how much is it going to cost you? For an independent producer, when he hears $6,000 per terabyte for storage, and you look at 4K output, for instance, you're looking at maybe 10 gigabytes per minute in camera use, and you're running a feature film, you're having all that raw data, you're looking at a lot of money being spent on storage, and you wonder whether there are some protocols we can start using that are going to compress it better and store it better and save it. Also, we have to look at whether it's going to be accessible forever and ever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a big issue.
The filmmakers on our session, and there were 3, were pretty much in agreement that the storage companies, and that's the cloud and the local storage guys, the guys with the hard drives and so forth, need to start working with producers and crews to see what they really need in the real world. If you're going to be a media storage company, you have to deal with the media developers and producers. And one of the real demands that they have is that they need to have indexing. You can create a database You can create a file format. You can store all the stuff, but you have to be able to access it. And if you can't get at it when you need it, if you can't go in there and depend on it being there when you want it, it's not going to do you a whole lot of good.
That's very true. One of the things that one of the people on my panel mentioned is in 1998, there was a 10 terabyte hard disk. You could get a 10 terabyte hard disk. It stood 8 feet tall, weighed 8,000 pounds, and it was $32,000 a terabyte.
Whoa.
And now we've got, terabyte things we can just slip in our pocket for about $1.98.
Now you got to remember to take off your shoes, otherwise you step on your movie.
For Tom, for people that want to learn more about the magazine that you write for, where do they go on the web?
Well, we're at www.markeemagazine.com, and Markee is spelled, creatively, let's say, Markee. I hope our French-speaking people don't get mad at me for corrupting the language like that. But the MarkeeMagazine.com is where we're at.
Is the subscription free, or what does it cost?
Well, it's on the web, so it's free.
I had a chance to visit your website. It's a lovely website and some very nice articles. I want to congratulate you. Tom Inglesby is the editor of Markee 2.0 magazine at Markee, Markee, magazine.com. Tom, thanks for joining us today.
Glad to be here.
Thanks, Tom.
Bye-bye.
Okay.